Right now, under your car, there are parts you almost never see that are worth more than most drivers realize. Brake lines, fuel lines, suspension arms, subframes, mounting points, weld seams, fasteners, crossmembers, drain channels, the steel skeleton that quietly holds your whole vehicle together while you think rust is just that orange stuff on old trucks. It is not. Rust is slow structural theft. And the worst part is that most people do not start thinking about it when the damage begins. They start thinking about it when it is already expensive, when a bolt snaps, when a brake line flakes, when a subframe looks like burnt pastry, when an inspection fails, when a mechanic points under the car and says words like surface rust, advanced corrosion, or starting to scale, and this is how these vehicles die. That is when people panic, but that is not when rust started. Rust started months earlier, quietly, in the seams, inside the wheel wells, around the clips, on the underbody, in the salt film, in the slush, in the wet chemical paste that roads throw at your vehicle every winter while you keep pretending one spring car wash is going to fix the problem. It won't. And there is a cheap liquid that interrupts that entire cycle before winter gets a full shot at your undercarriage. It does not come in a miracle bottle. It does not need a subscription. It does not need a dealership. It costs about $3 in the real world, sometimes less. And the reason people laugh at it is exactly why it works so well. Because simple prevention is bad for expensive repairs. The liquid is water. Plain water, used correctly, used early, used on purpose. That is the secret. And yes, I know what you are thinking. Water? Water stops rust? Is this a joke? No. Standing water creates problems. Salt water and trapped grime accelerate problems. But fresh water used to remove corrosive contamination is one of the cheapest rust prevention tools you have. Because rust does not just need metal. It needs time, moisture, and contamination to get comfortable. And winter hands it all three. Mazda's owner guidance says road chemicals and salt used for ice and snow removal can collect on the underbody and speed up rusting and deterioration, even on parts that already have anti-corrosive coatings. It recommends thoroughly flushing the underbody and wheel housings and warns that just wetting down the grime without actually removing it can do more harm than good. That is not a social media myth. That is not a forum uncle with a pressure washer. That is official owner guidance. And once you understand that, the whole conversation changes. Because now the question is not, does road salt really matter? The question becomes, why are so many people still driving around with months of corrosive sludge glued to the bottom of a machine they are trying to keep for 10 years? That is the real mystery. And the answer is simple. Because rust is boring until it becomes catastrophic. Nobody posts a viral video of the underbody they rinsed on time. Nobody brags about the frame rail that did not corrode. Nobody feels like a genius for washing out wheel wells in November. Prevention is emotionally unglamorous, repair is dramatic, and the economy of car ownership feeds on drama. That is why this works. The $3 liquid trick is not magic. It is interruption. You are interrupting the chemistry before it gets months to mature. Ele puts it plainly. Washing a car helps remove salt before it has time to cause corrosion, and a wash that includes undercarriage cleaning is essential. Ele also warns that winter road salt can cause hidden vehicle damage and recommends washing regularly, at least every 2 weeks and more often after driving on treated roads. Source. That hidden part matters, because the upper body gets your attention, the lower body gets the abuse. Salt spray gets thrown upward and inward. It hides in seams, it clings behind plastic liners, it packs into ledges and brackets, it cakes around suspension hardware, it sticks to brake and fuel line areas, and then moisture keeps visiting it again and again. That is where undercar rust really begins. Not as a Hollywood disaster, but as a sticky, invisible, neglected layer of winter chemistry. This is why the title says before winter, not after. Not at the end of March when the first warm weekend finally makes you feel productive. Before winter is when the game matters most because rust loves old grime plus new salt. If the underbody is already carrying dirt, oil film, mud, and trapped debris from the previous season, winter chemicals have more texture to cling to and more places to stay wet. So the first move is not coat everything in mystery goop. The first move is clean the battlefield. And Honda's own fuel economy and maintenance guidance quietly backs the same mindset. It notes that in winter, buildup of snow on the underside adds weight and rolling resistance, and that frequent cleaning helps both fuel mileage and reduces the chance of corrosion. That is how grown-up maintenance works. First remove what should not be there, then protect what remains. And this is the part that should genuinely annoy you. A lot of the expensive rust-related repairs people pay for are not mysterious acts of fate. They are delayed cleaning bills, rusty lines, stuck hardware, corroded brackets, exhaust fasteners that dissolve into dust, shield mounts that snap, subframe corrosion that started as nothing. That kind of damage makes shops money. Prevention does not. Again, this is not some cartoon villain mechanic conspiracy where every technician kneels in a circle praying for sodium chloride. A lot of great mechanics hate rust, but the system still makes far more money from replacement than preservation. A customer who spends a few dollars rinsing the underbody before and during winter is quietly destroying future revenue opportunities. That is why nobody markets this like it deserves to be marketed, because it is too cheap, too simple, too effective for its price. Now let us talk about the actual method, because this is where people ruin the whole thing by being lazy. The trick is not to splash water under the car and call it a day. That can actually make things worse if all you did was re-wet corrosive grime and leave it there. Mazda literally warns about this. It can do more harm than good to wet down road grime without removing it. So here is how you do it properly. Before the real winter cycle starts, get the car on a mild day and give the underbody and wheel housings a deliberate rinse. A self-serve bay, underbody wash attachment, or careful hose rinse is enough. Focus on the areas that hold grime, wheel wells, rocker areas, suspension corners, lower pinch seams behind the wheels, and the exposed lower structure. Do not just spray for 5 seconds and admire your work. Flush until the dirt actually leaves. Flush until the runoff stops looking like soup. Flush until the salt crust, mud film, and debris are not simply wet, but removed. That is the difference between maintenance and theater. And once winter begins, repeat it. Not once, repeatedly, especially after storms, brine-treated roads, or slushy weeks where the bottom of the car has basically been marinated in corrosion seasoning. AAA says undercarriage cleaning is essential and recommends regular washing during salt season. Mazda recommends flushing the underbody and wheel housings at the end of winter and even monthly, while Honda's guidance supports frequent cleaning in winter conditions. This is where the $3 number becomes real. A lot of self-serve washes will give you enough time for a focused underbody rinse for a few dollars. That is all you need. $3 versus a brake line repair, $3 versus fuel line corrosion, $3 versus seized hardware, $3 versus the kind of frame rust that makes a perfectly good engine irrelevant. That trade is so lopsided it is almost insulting. And if you want to be smarter than average, do not stop at wash when it looks dirty. Rust is not waiting for visible ugliness. Road salt works when you cannot see it clearly. The smart move is rhythm. Before winter, after major storms, during warm breaks, before long storage. That is how you beat it, not with panic, with routine. Now, a fair warning, this is not magic immortality liquid. Fresh water does not make steel eternal. It does not reverse deep corrosion. It does not rebuild metal already eaten away. It does not replace real protective coatings where those are needed. What it does is much more valuable. It prevents corrosive residue from living rent-free on your undercarriage for months. And that alone changes everything, because rust is opportunistic. Take away time and contamination, and its progress slows. Give it trapped salt and neglect, and it accelerates. That is the whole battle. And once you see it that way, winter car care becomes much less mysterious. People love special products because products feel serious. But the truth is that most people do not need a miracle first. They need discipline first. Clean the underside. Keep drains clear. Do not let salty sludge camp out in the wheel housings. Do not let the car wear a winter chemical backpack until April. Then if you choose extra protection later, fine. But protection over grime is not strategy. It is decoration. Clean first, always. There is one more reason this matters that people overlook. Corrosion does not stay politely in one place. It spreads consequences. Once hardware rusts, service gets harder. Bolts snap. Jobs get longer. Labor rises. Simple repairs become ugly repairs. Ugly repairs become not worth it conversations. That is how people lose cars that still had years left in them. Not because the engine was done, because the underside was ignored. So if you want the shortest version of this whole script, here it is. The $3 liquid is not exotic. It is clean water, used before and during winter to flush away salt, road chemicals, and hidden grime from the underbody and wheel housings before they can sit there and accelerate corrosion. That is why it works. That is why owner guidance and AAA winter advice point in the same direction, and that is why so many people miss it, because it is too cheap to feel powerful. But cheap does not mean weak. Cheap just means nobody bothered to glamorize it enough. So this winter, do one intelligent thing before the roads get ugly. Do not wait for rust-proofing season to become a panic purchase. Do not wait for the first inspection surprise. Do not wait until the car starts looking tired underneath. Rinse the underbody before winter hits hard, then keep doing it through the season. Not casually, deliberately. Because the best rust repair is still the one you never have to pay for. And the worst thing mechanics, inspectors, and rust itself could possibly see is a driver who learns that lesson early.